Hi, I'm Andy with Universal Audio, and I'm here today to show you the next generation of Apollo interfaces. So around about 2012, Universal Audio released the Apollo range of interfaces, which pretty much fundamentally changed the way which we can record natively with a DAW. The idea behind the Apollo was not only to create a class-leading interface in terms of sound quality, but to be able to give us the ability to host Universal Audio's UAD plugins in real time with zero latency. So what does that mean? It means a kind of a return to the workflow that was really only accessible to engineers and musicians in top studios. So the ability to run through an analog console and then augment the sound, add vibe with pieces of outboard gear. Not just any outboard gear, but kind of classic pieces of kit from API, from Teletronics, from Neve, you name it. You can apply those devices to really shape the tone and also the vibe and the mood of a record. So the ability to do that in the digital domain with UAD plugins in real time was a huge step forward. So in 2015, enter the Mark II range of Apollo interfaces. So here we've got the Apollo 8, and this is joined by the Apollo 8P and the new Apollo 16. So the biggest change is sonically. The original Apollos were already a class-leading audio interface at its price point. Incredibly neutral, incredibly accurate converters with the ability to colour the front end with the UAD plugins. With the new range of Apollos, the black Apollos, we've got significant steps forward in terms of conversion, lower THD. We've also got improved imaging, and there's a real kind of sense of depth with the conversion. Further on from that, we've got improved functionality on the right-hand side of the interface. We've got the ability to switch between our input and output meters. We've also got alternate monitors. So one of the biggest requests from Universal Audio customers was the ability to run multiple pairs of monitors in real time and be able to switch between different references. So we can have now, as well as our main monitor outputs, a further 2 additional monitors, which is a huge step forward. Finally, we've got a function switch, which allows us to access dim functions, and also kind of the mono sum as well. We can kind of drop the whole stereo image back down into mono to kind of just make sure anything in terms of phase is taken care of, and we can kind of accurately monitor that and meter it. So the overview of Apollo 8 is very much in the same vein as the previous Apollo. On the left-hand side, we've got our preamp gain. We've got an input selection between mic and line, 48 volts phantom power. We've also got a phase reversal for all 4 of those mic pre's. We've got a high pass filter, we've got a pad, and we've also got a link switch which will link 1 and 2 together, 3 and 4, vice versa. We've got 4 mic pre's. We've also got 5 line inputs. We've got our main monitor output, which we can kind of mute the device. We've also got 2 dedicated headphone outputs. Now, very much another step forward for Universal Audio was the addition of Unison mic technology. Now, Unison is an input modeling system which not only models the characteristics of microphone preamps, but also the topology and also the impedance relationship between a certain microphone and a microphone pre. So say for example, you plug a U87 into a Neve 1073, there's a very special relationship that occurs, not only because of the tone of the preamp, but the physical relationship in the impedance matching of those 2 devices. So what Universal Audio have been able to do is recreate that. Also on the 2 high Z inputs, we've also got Unison technology. So if we plug a guitar or a bass into there, it will load the pickups in a certain way. So if we launch one of our emulations of the Ibanez Tube Screamer, it's the same relationship of a set of single coils from a Strat going into the front end of a Tube Screamer. So not only do you get the sonic qualities of it, you get the feel and you get that feedback from when you hit the guitar for when it hits the front end of the gain stage of a pedal. How we're able to give a zero latency monitoring path and host these plugins is because we've got DSP chips hosted within the device itself. So instead of a microphone signal or a line input signal going through to the device into the DAW, coming back again and monitoring it from there, we're going to have a certain amount of latency. With the Apollo, it's all taken care of on the front end within the device. So what we're able to do is have an incredibly low monitoring path. So our latency is absolutely negligible. So from the point where we can plug a microphone in, we could plug a guitar, add effects to the front end, and there'll be absolutely no latency. One of the ways we achieve that is with the console application. Now the console application sits in between the interface and the DAW. Think of it as the first port of call for where your signals hit. The console application acts as an analog console. So what we're able to do here, we're able to insert a preamp, for example. So if we've got the UA 610, which is a classic emulation of the 610 tube preamp. Again, we can launch that. That sits in our first slot. And then from that point on our inserts, as we go down the channel strip here, we can also launch an EQ, for example. So we could have our preamp feeding into an EQ. So we can create custom channel strips if we like. The ability to shape the front end is a huge benefit for anyone who's recording. You can put them in a vibe, you can put them in a situation where they feel comfortable, they feel like there's something going on in their headphone mix. This doesn't just apply to preamps and EQs. We could also apply a reverb. So say if we've got an artist that wants a specific reverb sound in their headphones, we can easily achieve that. We can load a Lexicon 224, a classic reverb, to again put the artist at ease, put them in a vibe, and kind of put them right in the track. So this console application allows us to monitor in real time. So before we've even hit the front end of the digital audio workstation, we can create sends from here. So I could take an input from analog input 1. I can then send some level to my auxiliaries, and then I can monitor that back through the control room monitors, or I could then send that to a headphone mix. So it's incredibly easy and straightforward to give your artist a headphone mix. And this can also be saved. So if we're working with an artist time and time again, we can set it up in such a way that we can have our gain structure set, any EQ curve set, reverb and delay set for the headphones. We can hit save and then just recall that function at a later date. So consistency, a real kind of speed to the workflow. The whole thing about this system is giving you the ability to make music. That's the most important thing. In addition to the kind of the more creative aspects of the console application, one of the big things is to handle routing and the kind of global functions of the Apollo. So one of the new features that the Mark II version of the Apollos has introduced is the ability to bypass the gain structure on the front end. So although we've got 4 mic pre's and a further 5 line inputs, we've got the ability to assign these mic inputs to be line inputs. And with the original Apollos, this gain stage was always active. You had a line trim. One of the requests was the ability to be able to bypass that line trim, so you've got a true line input directly to the converter. So the idea being that if you've got an external mic pre, you've got an external piece of kit that you want to throw into the mix, that you've got a clean signal path into the converter. So in the console application, we can go to settings, I can go to one of the line inputs, and I can choose whether to have the trim on or bypassed. So a little relay will click, and that is a true hardware bypass of that gain stage. So now we've got the ability to go directly into the converter. One of the other abilities that the Apollo 8 now has is on the output section. So with a lot of people choosing to use external monitor controllers to be able to bring in external sources, so it might be a 2-track source or to be able to switch between multiple sets of monitors, we've given you the ability to bypass the gain stage on the output. So now if you're going into a high-end monitor controller, we can choose to bypass that output. Again, giving you the cleanest possible signal from the converters out into your monitor controller. Just little incremental differences that kind of make the integration of a device like this work in everything from a small home studio recording setup or to a larger professional setup where it needs to play nice with external pieces of equipment. So one thing let's have a look at, let's take a look at the back panel. So from the back of the panel, we've got our 4 mic line inputs on combi jacks. We've got a further 4 line inputs on the back. And also these can be bypassed on the front panel to give us a true line input, taking that input gain stage out of the equation. We've got our main monitor outputs. We've also got another 8 line outputs which can double as alternate outputs for additional speakers. We've got SPDIF in, SPDIF out, word clock. We've got ADAT, which can work over SMUX for higher sample rates. And finally, we've got our Thunderbolt card on the back. So this gives us the ability to A, connect to our Mac, but also works as a through so we can connect additional pieces of equipment. So that could be extra screens, or in this case, it's a Thunderbolt satellite. A major step forward with Console 2.0 was the ability to have up to 4 Apollos cascaded in one system. So with one Thunderbolt connection between each device and then one going to the Mac, you've got the ability to have a huge count of I/O. So that could be 4 Apollo 8s, it could be 4 Apollo 8Ps, it could be 4 Apollo 16s, or any combination of those, including the Apollo Twin. In addition to those 4 Apollos, we could have an extra 2 UAD devices. So this chap here is a Thunderbolt Octo satellite, which gives us an additional 8 chips of DSP processing with the addition of the 4 we have on board here. So in total, 12 chips of DSP processing available to host a huge number of UAD plugins. So from a laptop, we can host a huge session with no stress on the computer other than having to play back the audio. All of that plugin processing is taken place by the Shark chips that live within these devices. Another major step forward with Console 2.0 and the new range of Apollos is star clocking. Now, star clocking gives us the ability to clock all of our UAD devices together over one single Thunderbolt connection. So from the Mac into the first device and then daisy chain from there. It means that all our audio packets are handled through one connection, all our UAD data, all the console functions in terms of DIM, any hardware control, is all taken care of by one source. So no need for extra BNCs, no need to kind of add extra ADAT cables into the mix. One simple, elegant connection that means you can be up and running in seconds. For any more information about Universal Audio, UAD, or any of the Apollo products, feel free to give the guys at Absolute Music a shout or get along to www.absolutemusic.co.uk. Cheers.